In the 10 years since Hard Talk first aired, this studio has played host to many of the world's presidents, princes, foreign ministers, dictators and dictators' wives, jihadists, army generals, rock stars, astronauts, even the occasional tax fugitive. No matter who they are, all our guests receive the same treatment. 24 minutes of hard questions, the opportunity to explain and defend their actions, and one simple truth: there is nowhere to hide. Welcome to 10 years of Hard Talk.
Anita Tucker.
President Mandela.
Jürgen Klinsmann.
Joaquin Aputem.
Howard Marks, welcome to BBC Hard Talk. You are a convicted crook.
John Major.
Christopher Lee.
Vanessa May. Hugh Thompson.
Orhan Pamuk. Welcome to Hard Talk.
President Jimmy Carter. Charlton Heston.
Benazir Bhutto. Shimon Peres.
Jackie Collins. Welcome to Hard Talk. Sex, power, hatred, lust.
Ambassador John Bolton.
King Hussein of Jordan.
Twiggy.
Quentin Crisp. Kenneth Kaunda. Arthur Gellhorn. Welcome to Hard Talk. Do you mind answering questions instead of asking them for a change?
Yes, I do.
Madeleine Albright.
Hillary Benn.
Jack Straw.
Иван Азмиев. Михаил Сергеевич Горбачев. Добро пожаловать на нашу программу. A very warm welcome to the program. I was fascinated by Mikhail Gorbachev. I always thought that if I had to spend 24 hours locked in a room with a politician, any politician from around the world, who could I stand to be with? Who would be the most interesting one? And definitely Gorbachev. Let me ask you one direct question. Were you afraid of the KGB ever?
Я ничего не боялся.
Really?
Не боялся. Это мне не свойственно, качество. Я не боялся. Но я знал, что надо быть осторожным. Это разные вещи.
I was very excited to get an interview with Sergei Ivanov because it's not easy to get to the top people around Vladimir Putin.
What you seem to be suggesting is that American policies around the world are making the threat of instability worse.
Sometimes, yes. Sometimes
Where
no.
and how?
Well, the big Middle East.
I just remember one letter standing out in my mind. It was from somebody in Syria who wrote a card saying, "You have spoken to a lot of hateful politicians, but you have spoken for the hopeless and the helpless." And actually, that's one of the few things I keep from the Hard Talk days. The suicide bombs on buses aren't meant for civilians. The children and women who die on buses. I don't notice the suicide bombers letting the civilians off the bus before they blow it up.
المقاومة الفلسطينية ركزت في البداية على الأهداف العسكرية والمستوطنين، ولكن ارتكاب إسرائيل للمجازر ضد المدنيين في المسجد الأقصى عام 90 وفي المسجد الإبراهيمي في الخليل عام 94.
I leaned forward to make a point, and I noticed his bodyguard went for his gun at the same time.
My job is to go in there, identify what are the raw nerves, the areas where this particular guest ought to be challenged, needs to be rigorously tested, and follow through on that.
Who presents the names of members of the election board to the House of People's Representatives for approval?
The president submitted the names to the parliament. Now, if we were to appoint new election board members, it would be the prime minister which would put the names to the parliament.
Where were you at that particular time?
I was the president of the transitional government.
You were the president?
Yes.
So you still put forward the names?
Yes, I did.
Well, I think perhaps that's the point I'm trying to get to.
An Ethiopian journalist would not have been able to ask his own prime minister those sorts of questions, but Hard Talk, with its reputation, it can.
When you're talking about life and death and human rights, it's worth ruffling a few feathers to do that.
Every one of us took an oath that we will fulfill our duties in the interest of this country. But you could not interfere with the portfolio of another minister unless you had ample evidence.
You could have resigned.
Yes.
He said, people told me before this interview, he said, that I shouldn't meet a bastard like you. He said, but I've met many bastards in my time, and I thought, what's one more? And this was my greeting.
Da dobijete moju saglasnost za razgovor, da ja to prihvatim I da tako brutalno razgovarate sa mnom. Prosto nije viteški, nije muški, znate.
Mira Markovic, what a character. A lady in terminal denial, I think, was how I felt at the time.
Rarely do you interview a leader who exposes himself and his feelings so completely.
First of all, I'm not responsible for Habyarimana's death, and I don't care. I wasn't responsible for his security.
This man, Kagame, was furious with my line of questioning, also furious with the French for having the temerity to suggest that he may have been responsible for this killing which kicked off the genocide.
The French judge has no right to judge me in my own situation in Rwanda.
And when you, as an interviewer, get somebody who is so full of anger and rage about the way they've been treated, you're going to get an explosive interview.
3 soldiers are still sitting in prisons for actions that were certainly wrong, but what they believed were legal orders. And if they're going to stay there, there's a lot of people who could keep them company.
The context of that interview gave the audience an awful lot of material with which to form an opinion. Janice Karpinski, thank you for being on Hard Talk.
Khaled Michel.
President Paul Kagame, thank you very much for being on Hard Talk.
Big Berta.
Sergei Ivanov, thank you very much for being on Hard Talk.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Prime Minister Miller Zenawi, I want to thank you very much for being on Hard Talk.
Mikhail Gorbachev, it's been a pleasure having you on the program. Thank you very much indeed.
Я очень рад был снова с вами встретиться и поговорить.
It has been and continues to be a privilege to host Hard Talk. In depth, tough and revealing. Stay tuned for future editions of the interview program that holds the world's newsmakers to account.